Greetings, fellow travelers. I hope you're traveling along paths of peace, wisdom, and tranquility. And if not, it's all right, because everything is trying to point you toward the promised land. Doesn't matter if it's a dance or a fight, it's all the same. It's all just information trying to wake you up to be the most awesome, aware human you can be. Today, I want to chat with you about how no matter what's happening in your life, there's always this more awakened, conscious, liberated awareness sitting there right under your nose, just waiting for you to tap into it. In episode 12, exercise 4, How to Use a Joyous Experience to Transform a Problem, I shared a simple method for doing this and for using it to change a problem. It involved reaccessing a high, positive state of mind you've experienced in the past and applying it to a problem in the present. It's fascinating that not only do we experience extreme variation in our highs and lows in life, but that we can reaccess them, re-experience them, as if they already exist somewhere within us. It's a radical thought to consider that while you're sitting there in the depths of depression, there's an ecstatic, free, happy version of you just at the fringe of your awareness, and it's possible to tap into it. Of course, it works the other way around too. I've had experiences where I felt awesome and then heard a sound or smelled something or saw a picture and a bad memory flooded in and instantly made me feel bad. It's crazy how our states of mind are so fluid, intangible, and transitory. But this is our very nature. We think we're solid beings with set identities. We assume that reality exists in a fixed state. We strive to attain a certain state of happiness, an ideal condition in our lives. But the fact is, everything in the universe, including us, is in process. We are processes. The notion that we have a bunch of different potential states of being within us at all times isn't only a basic element of psychological reality, it's also a central feature of physical reality. One of the main theories in quantum physics is called the many worlds paradigm. I want to dive into it a bit and then show you how it reveals something profound about ourselves. The many worlds paradigm states that whenever an observer makes an observation at the subatomic level, she collapses many potential results into just one, which manifests by virtue of how she observes. In other words, the lens through which she looks, which in a quantum physics experiment means the specific type of experimental setup she uses, determines which version of reality she perceives. There are many other versions right there in front of her, but they don't get perceived because her chosen lens only measures certain kinds of information. Now, by versions of reality, I don't mean different interpretations of the same thing. I mean that what gets observed actually changes depending on how you look at it. In physics, they say this in a fancy way. What is observed has no properties independent of the observer. The very act of observation determines what gets observed. It's similar to the basic problem in psychological research, which is that people behave differently when they're being observed. Before quantum physics was developed, nature was thought to be something you can study without influencing it by the act of observing. And this is still true in the everyday visible world. But quantum physics studies the invisible world of atoms. And when you get down to this core level of the universe, nature exists only as a relationship process with an observer. There's no set of pre-existing facts that can be detected. is only nature exposed to one's method of questioning. For example, one of the central questions in physics has always been, what is light? It's an important question because without light, we don't see the world. In the early 1900s, quantum physicists made a shocking discovery. If they set up their experiments in one way, light behaved as if it's made of tiny particles called photons. But if they changed their setup, light behaved as if it's made of waves, like ocean waves, but made of light. The problem with this is that a particle is a defined object that occupies a specific region of space, whereas a wave is a fluid pattern that spreads out. How can light be these two totally opposite things? How can something be a definite object located in a definite position and simultaneously be spread out all over the place? It makes no sense, right? Well, that's only if your paradigm is one in which the observer and the observed are independent of each other. Once you understand that the observer and the observed are entangled in an interdependent system, you begin to see how different ways of perceiving create different results. In the old physics that predated quantum physics, something couldn't be two different things at once and couldn't be explained by two different mathematical formulas. But quantum physics discovered that at the subatomic level, nature doesn't manifest according to these old established rules. Instead, it only answers the questions you ask. If you set up your experiment to find light particles, that's what you'll find. If you set it up to find light waves, that's what will appear. This discovery showed us that nature is a totally interactive phenomenon. Applied to you and me, this means that we have within us many different realities, different ways of perceiving life, different ways of being, different selves, and the one that manifests in a given moment is determined by how we observe, meaning how we perceive ourselves, others, and life. Our perceptions are governed by how we use and don't use our awareness. Your moods and problems aren't fixed things that exist independent from the way your consciousness is oriented. You're always in a fluid process that can go in many potential directions, ranging from ecstatic to depressed, relaxed to anxious, creative to bored, and so on. It's all there in you all the time. If you feel a lack of meaning in your life, there's another part of you that's in touch with a deep meaning. If you're lonely, there's another part of you that isn't lonely, and in fact thrives on being alone. Your opposites are alive and well. Of course, the obvious question arises as to where all your other realities, ways of being, inner selves, and perceptions go when you as the perceiver collapse all the options into just one. In the many worlds paradigm, the other realities still exist, but in parallel universes. Yup, it sounds like science fiction, but it's actually hardcore science. And guess what? Our psyches also have parallel universes. Every moment your awareness focuses in a certain way, you unconsciously choose one of your many selves with its specific way of perceiving things and repress the others. But where do they go? Into a parallel universe in your psyche. In other words, into your subconscious. They're still there, but you aren't aware they exist in the moment. In physics, you can't travel into a parallel universe because to do so, you'd have to travel through what's called a wormhole, and its physical conditions would instantly kill you. But you can travel into a parallel universe in your psyche, and you won't die. You can do this by exploring and amplifying the signals you receive from these parallel worlds, meaning your subconscious, and processing them. These signals range from everyday problems like pain, accidents, conflict, and bad states of mind to awesomely uplifting, creative, liberating experiences that feel like they come from who knows where. The gods, the sun, the moon. Well, they come from these parallel worlds in your psyche. In fact, this is what your subconscious is. It's where all your unconscious parallel perceptions reside. It contains the whole unrealized, big, wide world of you. All your unknown potential in its awesome and sometimes ugly glory. In the exercise, we focused on a problem you're having and accessed one of your inner parallel worlds where your past positive state of mind was still alive and well. When I show you how to process your problems from scratch, you'll see that these other worlds, other ways of perceiving and being, and other identities are there for you to discover. They're not given to you by me or anyone else. Re-accessing a joyous state of mind is a pretty general direction, but it's still a direction I gave you. That's because it's a beginner's exercise. When you learn to actually process a problem, a new way of being will show itself to you organically. This is very different from most other approaches to healing and growth, which actually tell you what state of mind to get into. They're prescriptive. My approach is descriptive. Instead of prescribing a way of thinking, feeling, and behaving, I focus on your unique experience of an issue and use your description of that experience as the starting point and guidance system. Within your problem lies its own solution.